spirituality in our culture, okay? Don't forget, he's still here working right here. If you think that it's potential that a demon can't be here, now again, I think we can cast them away, but it can be in our church as well as it was in the synagogue with Jesus himself staying in the synagogue, okay? So let's be aware of it. Mark's just trying to let us know that this is real. So let's move on to the next little story here. It's still in the day of. He starts in the synagogue, goes Sabbath. Guess what? He gets invited over for potluck. That's what it says in the Bible here. I'm pretty sure it says haystacks, but I'm not sure. Let's read on to make sure that we get the right recipe of what they have at the potluck. So Jesus, let's verse 29 to 31. We'll let somebody else read it. I'm going to keep going. No, do you mind reading Mark chapter 1, verse 29 to 31? We're going to go to 34, but let's stop at 31 and make sure we get it.
And forthwith, when they were come out of the synagogue...
I love the speed. How should they go? They were hungry. I'm sorry, go ahead.
They entered into the house of Simon and Andrew with James and John. But Simon's wife's mother lay sick of a fever, and anon they tell him of her. And he came and took her by the hand and lifted her up, and immediately the fever left her, and she ministered unto them.
So I love the speed, right? So as soon as they left the synagogue, Mark's like trying to get us on a hurry. He's trying to understand. He's saying, here we go, giddy up, hang with me. We're going. They're hungry. Sermon's over. It's potluck time. But then a potluck where everybody comes and they went to somebody's house, right? How many of you had an opportunity to go to somebody else's house on the Sabbath after a church service, right? That's something we still like to do. It's biblical, right? I love it. I love it. So here we go. So, but when Jesus gets there, it's interesting. Let's try to unpack this a little bit. Who's sick? Who? So, okay, so let's unpack that culturally. Let's unpack that a little bit culturally. Why it is important that we know that it's the mother-in-law that's in the house that's there. Where should, we don't know much about her in the background. Who should be taking care of the mother? Why would it be Simon's responsibility if it's his mother-in-law? What's that?
It would be her son's responsibility to take care of her.
It would not be technically their responsibility to care for her. It should be with the son. Again, we don't know if she had a son. We don't know all of these. So I'm conjecturing. I'm writing in haystacks. We're at the potluck, okay? I know I'm writing in here, but I'm trying to help us think a little bit deeper on this one. Because it's something very unique that this is not where, and if you had a sick mother in your home, even if you did, why would you have everybody over to your house? Weird, isn't it? It seems really weird. I know my wife is busy taking care of her mother, who really shouldn't be here. She'd be with her son. Shouldn't even be in our house. Because that's whose responsibility it is. And here we go. And I'm bringing, and maybe his wife wasn't at church, and Simon shows up. Hey, honey, we're here. I don't know this, but this is what goes through my head. Is like maybe Simon didn't even tell his wife. He's just showing up with a whole crowd of people from church, and she's thinking about, and his wife is thinking about, but my mother.
The only thing that I would say to that is it says when she was well, she got up and served them, implying that the food was already ready.
Okay, maybe.
So on the preparation day, it is logical to...
They'd already cut up the tomatoes and the lettuce was already shredded.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So maybe they were anticipating the company. She got sick.
Maybe. It's as good a conjecture as mine. Why not?
Well, like I said, I'm sorry. The sons couldn't have felt what you said. Unless he's part of the one that we would not.
The son. Say it again.
Her son, who was supposed to be taken care of.
Simon's mother-in-law's son. Yeah.
Well, see, it's Simon's wife's mother.
Yeah.
So the sister had a brother. The brother's the one we talked about.
Right. And again, I'm drawing some conjecture in there. I get that.
He could have been totally dead or something.
But it's still a weird story. If that's what I'm trying to wrap our heads around. It's a weird story that you would bring home all these people to your house when your mother-in-law is sick, and she shouldn't even really kind of be there, and culturally what? So go ahead. Yours on, get something else different.
History tells us that she was bedridden.
Yes.
She was bedridden, so she could not walk. And at this time, she had a fever.
Yes.
So that's where Jesus came and touched her.
Yeah. But from a fever perspective, that means you don't want them around because that usually means they're contagious. Right? So you brought people into your contagious home. And so Jesus immediately goes to the issue at hand. He doesn't dance around it. We don't hear him about going to see where the potluck line is, right? He goes immediately to where it is. And so he goes to her. And Simon's mother-in-law was in bed with a fever, and they told Jesus about her. So that means she's not visible, right? Hey, my mom's in the back. She's got the fever. Don't go back there. If you got to go to the bathroom, go around the long way. I don't know what they told Jesus, but they told her about her. But he had a very different approach. Because when they told her about her, I'm thinking, don't go there because she's contagious. And Jesus' response is fundamentally different. That's what's so cool about this. And what does he do? He goes to her. That's cool. He runs into the fire. It's very clearly, the other thing that Mark does a very good job of, if someone is sick, and we just learned about this all through COVID, what is the thing you're not to do?
Go around them. Stay away from them.
Touch them, right? We learned all about washing, we learned about hand sanitizer, we learned all about masks, of course, to keep the thing going, but we also learned that it can be spread by touching, it can be spread by getting close, right? And I think that's what we're supposed to jump out of the page at us. She's sick, she's got a fever. Don't go in the back room. She's there. He turns, whoop, reaches out. No, don't touch that. Touches her. Very cool.
What we know now about reading the story is that Jesus had that arm up, he had a leg up on everybody. He couldn't get sick. He didn't get the flu. He never had a cold.
I don't believe that.
I
I don't believe that. I think he suffered just like we suffer. He's a human being. When he stepped on a sharp rock, his toe got cut just like you and me.
He might have hurt a little bit on that part, but he didn't get sick. He would stay away from her.
Could be, brother. We got a different opinion on that. I think he walked and he lived and he suffered with us just like we do. When they cut him on the head with the thorns, blood came out.
Yes.
Anyways, that's my personal opinion. We are accepted. I get yours. So I think he was susceptible. He could have gotten. And again, he reached out. He touched her. He clearly used. I don't believe he had access to things that we don't have. Let me just say it that way. The Holy Spirit and God's power is just as available to us as it is to them. Let me say it that way. Okay? Fever left her, and she began to wait on him. It just shows you her servant heart, right? She was very much of a service one. So let's go on. Let's kind of finish up that 32 through 34.
And even when the sun did set, they brought unto him all that were diseased, and them that were possessed with devils. And all the city was gathered together at the door. And he healed many that were sick of diverse diseases, and cast out many devils, and suffered not the devils to speak, because they knew him.
What do you grab from that? What are your thoughts about how they close the Sabbath at that house? Anybody have Vespers at their house? I like having Vespers at my house. I think it's fun. It's a lot of fun, right? Vespers is like when you had close the Sabbath, when you get together, either open the Sabbath or close the Sabbath, you get together and you do a little worship service. It's basically a little praise and worship service. It's a fancy way we say that. So this is a very unique worship, praise, Vesper service that goes down here.
And also, I think it goes back to kind of what she was saying earlier. We were talking
Yeah.
about how we think that maybe when he was telling the demons to be quiet and come out, how they were saying he's the son of God, Jesus of Nazareth, how she was saying that they were trying to undercut him.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because over here in verse 34,
Yes.
it says he would not let the demons speak because they knew who he was. So it's almost like he didn't want them to say.
So he shut them all. He said, he was like, what is it, exhibit A?
Also, when you look at this, they just left, they went synagogue straight to this house. Word spread about he got some demons out in church while they were gone, and then they went to the house. And then it says again, after sunset, they brought everybody was sick.
Bunch of good Sabbath keepers.
And
It could be. We want to put science on a lot of this. I get that, and I'm not debating that science does play a bigger role in that. But I think there's also a lot, and it's really cool. I think where you were going with this one.
I have a question.
It's a Sabbath Vespers. It's interesting that they don't bring more people to heal until after the Sabbath. Again, think of some other stories where Jesus heals on the Sabbath. Okay, just think through those and kind of tie those back into this thing. It's like they are thinking the same thing. Like, okay, I know Jesus. I just saw him do that thing this morning in a church today. Well, when sundown's down, I'm taking my cousin because I think we can get him in better shape too. Right? Kind of interesting, like a little play that's going on here. Go ahead. Guess what?
So, if they recognize so well the demons then in the synagogue, how do we recognize them now, today?
Yeah. Because I think our culture is we discount it to science.
Yeah.
We put it over in the science category because that's where our culture is. It's not a negative thing. And I believe the demons use science to just like sin. That's how we get infected with sin, right? To create these problems we have. But I think you're onto something there. You're saying it's different potentially than what we think. Different potentially than our view and our perception is. I think that's what you're going
Like
with.
we
Yeah.
can explain rainbows, you know?
Yeah, of course we explain it. It's not God's promise. So when the sun shines through, there's water vapor in the air, and it lights up. Exactly. That's a great example. That's a great example.
Well,
We put the science behind it, and isn't that pretty? The storm's past us.
And then it's no longer a miracle.
It's no longer a
But
promise,
I did
right?
have a question.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting, and maybe somebody has a perspective, but I think it's interesting when Jesus is baptized, God announces, "This is my son."
Yeah.
And then the demons try to, make the same announcement. It's So I wonder why, of course, it's not time. We know it's not time to.
From other Bible studies, we say that Jesus waits until he wants to do that. And I think the book of Mark, I think half of it is goes very quickly, and the last half is mostly crucifixion week, and that kind of stuff. So he's in a hurry to get through in his book all this type of stuff.
And the reason they waited after sunset is because there was all these rules in place back then, way more than we have today, about how we should approach this happening. So,
Yeah, there's
that's
no.
why it's going to happen.
So if you look at writings of Ellen White in Desire Ages, page 256, 257, she says the same evil spirit that tempted Christ in the wilderness and possessed the maniac of Capernaum controlled the unbelieving Jews, but with them he assumed an air of piety, seeking to deceive them as to their motives in rejecting the Savior. Their condition was more hopeless than that of the demonic, for they felt no need of Christ, and therefore held fast under the power of Satan.
I like it. Thank you.